Hello friends, my name is Heather Morjo. I am doing my first paint demo with my ring light. So I am going to be testing out two different watercolor inks. I have one here in leaf green and one here in what's called May green in Schmincke and Daler and Rawney. So I'm going to do three different exercises to test these two paints to figure out what's the difference. So let's start with what we know the difference is. So this one was purchased at Michael's craft store for $10. They are both pigment based. The one from Michael's has a light fastness of 3. Now the difference between dye watercolor ink and pigment watercolor ink is that dye watercolor ink is not light fast, which means that when exposed to light, it will fade and lose its color. I don't know why anybody would use anything except for light fast paints, because that's how art lasts generations. So for me, pigment was the only way to go, and light fastness was important. So this paint can be used in droppers, with paintbrushes, with markers, pens, watercolor brushes, airbrush on just about any paper. It's made in England, 1 US fluid ounce, and light fastness is 3, which I believe is good. The pigments that are in this one, there's 2 pigments, so it's PY3 and PG7, and it's got benzopropanol in here as well, and may produce an allergic reaction. It's in a glass bottle. So then we've got this, which is AquaDrop by Schmincke, made in Germany. Light fastness on their May green is excellent, 5 stars, and it is a much smaller bottle. This is only 30 milliliters, made in Germany. Does not, I didn't see any other, like it says the same benzopropanol, may contain allergens, so same there. The pigments are PY74 and PG36, so a slightly different green. I would say that the leaf green is a little lighter and the AquaDrop is a little darker, just in tone, but very similar. Slightly different hue as well, actually. The Schmincke is in a plastic bottle, and it's got a little metal bead in the bottle to shake it up with. So again, pigment quality watercolor ink, and they both come with droppers, which was very important for what I want to work with. So we're going to start. I've shaken these up quite a bit already. So the first exercise we're going to do is just a drop and pull with a brush, just to see how the color moves. So we'll put 3 drops just for fun. And I am using Connoisseur Kensington Round, and I realize that there are many watercolorists out there who will not use Kensington sable brushes because they are made from sable hair. And for them, I would mention that, yes, that is a valid concern, and I respect your beliefs. However, for me, I am trying to cut down on the use of petrochemicals, and synthetic brushes are made with plastic. And we all know that you lose the bristles as you're painting with this. So, I don't want to create microplastic, which can go into our water sources, which we eventually drink. And so that was my personal choice as to why I use animal-based paintbrushes. They are completely biodegradable. So what I was trying to do there is just pull the ink across, get it to its lightest color, and then see if I could lift it a little bit. And because as I think you can see that there's a very harsh line there where the ink first went down. And so I was just seeing if I could lift that, and I could, but it took a lot of work and a lot of work on the paper. So you know, watercolor inks are very staining. That's what they do. That's why we use them. They're also, because they're very vibrant quality color as compared to some of the pigment pots and bottles, tubes that you get. So oh, already I can tell you this is thicker. This is much, much, much thicker. I would say that there's probably significantly less water in this paint compared to the other one. Let's see here. Yeah, and still that really harsh line. I'm just going to try and clear my brush here and pick up some of this. No, it is not going anywhere. Once it's down, it is down. So first impressions, this moves incredibly easily, right? And it was really easy to get that gradient. There's definitely more water in the Aquafine, and it was a little easier to lift. They're both very staining, and that's what we're looking for. This is more like a not quite a gel, but definitely thicker, right? Like it's got less water in it. It's definitely thicker in many ways. And so much more staining, right? You got to be very precise with it. We're going to do a wet, that was wet on dry paper. So I'm just going to wet the paper a little bit here and then do a drop. So this is wet on wet. And with wet on wet, you would define the area that you want the paint to go beforehand. And you're trying to get an all over clean coverage and even coverage of tone. Which I wouldn't say I really got. I wasn't trying really hard, but no, I wouldn't say that I got a really good coverage there with the Aquafine. And I'll try a drop of the Schmincke. It's just like honey when it drips. That was probably too thick. I didn't do that one great. Actually, as it's drying here, I am seeing like a really nice, clean coverage. I don't feel I did a great job with this one. So maybe we'll just come over here, try again. The wet on wet. Yeah, it's really heavy. I probably would not use it from the dropper based on how heavy it is. But I mean, that also means you're not paying for water. Yeah, I feel like I'm seeing some of the grain. As compared to this one. There's no granules. So I would probably never use the Schmincke from, sorry, I'm gonna call it AquaDrop because I don't think I'm saying that correctly. I would probably not use AquaDrop from the dropper directly onto the page personally. It's just really heavy, and I would feel like I'm wasting it, to be honest. Like it's definitely a lot slower drying. You know, like this is still completely activated. Yeah, this is still completely activated, but the coverage is a little different. Like you can see 3 drops of the Aquafine was very thin, and you can see right through it as compared to 3 drops of the AquaDrop. So yeah, really different effects. And just for fun, just to help you understand like the difference in watercolors, I've got some Holtzbein leaf green. This is a color fastness of 2, and it's got pigment PY154 and PG7. And I'm just gonna grab my sketch brush here. So you put the paint into the pan, add some water, and then you have to agitate it to get the pigment to mix with the water, right? So it's a very different approach. So we're just gonna do a line here. So that's the thickest that I can get the paint. You know, and the line is a little more playful, right? Like you can, I put that down and then I can pull and there's no stain. There's no stain line, whereas with these, there's stain lines where the first brush stroke went down on the dry paper. So the watercolor pans and paint that comes from tubes is a very different animal, right? It gives you a little more control. This is not quite as staining, not quite as permanent, much easier to lift, right? So it's a very different approach to how you paint. And so now we're going to do a different experiment. And the reason that I wanted to get into using watercolor inks is actually for doing drop painting. So kind of an abstract technique. These are watercolor postcards. I bought a pack of them for like $7, $8 for 50. So they're not like high quality paper. They're just a cold press 135 pound paper. I'm not that picky about my papers yet, so this is really just play paper, something for me to experiment with. And I've got these little egg cups. These are the next generation of use for a British breakfast thing. They both have 2 tablespoons of water that has been purified, because water has chlorine in it typically to keep bacteria from growing in the pipes. And so we want to take the chlorine out. Some people use distilled water. Can you see that? 3, 4, there we go. So just adding the drops of pigment to the cups, and then I take these pipettes, give it a little agitation. This one will, oops. This one will go here. This one will go here, and I try not to mix them up because they're not easy to clean. So before I even drop it on, I can notice like this seems more like definitely thicker liquid. They both have 5 drops in them, and this one is much thinner, right? And you can kind of see that by how it leaves a residue on the cup when I move the cup around. So this one just kind of comes off right away, but this one kind of sticks to the sides of the cup. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody watching. But so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drop paint. So, and I feel like I can paint a little bit more with these pipettes. Not doing anything specific with them. So these are making very light green transfer. Even if yeah, so very light green. Very translucent. This is just a little thicker. Like everything about the AquaDrop is thicker. Okay. And I feel like there's some more tones in this compared to this. This seems like it's got like a little bit of tones where the paint is thicker, but it's really not quite as noticeable to me. So I'm just gonna drop this on top and give it a couple seconds to absorb into both pieces of paper. So because this is really staining, it's going to hold to this paper the way that the pans do not. So this technique with pans, it works, just not with really vibrant colors. So we're just gonna take a look here, and yeah, these aren't very vibrant. So let's try, you know, there's virtually no stain on the Aquafine, and there's a little bit of stain. Actually, I'd say pretty well defined stain on the AquaDrop, and it held its shape a little bit better than the Aquafine did. So we'll do one more. We're gonna add some more drops to the paint. So we did 5 in each. So we'll do 5 more. Just to get a little deeper hue. Okay. Really hope I didn't miscount that one. I looked away for a split second, so I hope I didn't mix it up. So it's even got little postcard things on it. Okay, so just agitate that a little bit, get it all mixed in. This time we'll drop the AquaDrop first. I'm gonna try doing similar shapes just so it's even. I use the same brush with those lines just so it's, you know, a control. Because painting's kind of like chemistry. I don't feel like it flows out of the pipette quite as good either. It kind of blops. This is my first time doing this, so I have not done this experiment before. This is live And I do have a bias because I have been trained by watercolorists who say the artist is only as good as the quality of paint that they use, and that if you use poor quality paint, you know, it's not going to last forever. Yeah, I'm not. These are the same brands of pipettes too, so I can't blame the pipette for that coming out all bloppy. Okay, so I'll just give it a couple seconds under the page. Because this paper doesn't have much of a tooth, I'm not pulling it up right away. I'm giving it a couple seconds to absorb. If this page had more tooth, then I would lift it sooner. Yeah. So I'm not sure. The camera doesn't pick it up as clearly as my eye does, but there's visible lines where the stain went down prior to me putting the page on top. This one's still holding a little bit of its shape. It's not as vibrant of color. I would say it's watery, more watery. This opposite page is more consistent coverage. This one's pretty wet. Okay, I decided to cut in and do one more thing before I conclude, and that was drops onto, straight from the bottle onto the paper. I'm doing some loose Christmas tree looking things. Because it's holiday season coming up. Comes out way thicker. That's the angle. Nope, it just comes out way thicker straight out of the bottle. Okay, and now I'll drop this down. Seconds. So for painting straight from the bottle, I would say the Aqualine gives me more control, or pardon me, the Aquafine gives me more control over the pipette from the bottle. There's a whole lot more paint coming out of the AquaDrop. So in conclusion, I would say that as per the price point, Aquafine is a student level watercolor ink. Great for learning techniques, great for first experimentation. You know, any initial learning. I would not personally invest in a lot of these, which is what I'm about to do, because I don't love the quality of this. It's mostly water. I would say that there, you know, if they were, I don't see a listing that identifies how much pigment there is to water, but I would guesstimate that this is probably like 50-50 and this is maybe 20-50, but I don't know. And there's nothing written there that says how much pigment there is in each that I could identify. Maybe a more experienced artist could, but yeah. So I will be investing in AquaDrop colors and using these for my upcoming abstract paintings. Thanks for watching, and let me know what your experience is, if there's anything that makes one better than the other, or less quality, or reasons why you wouldn't use it. Thanks for watching.